Well, hi, folks. Thanks for strolling on into the Sty Shack. Hey, we got a Sty story for you. This one, called Snapper Gold. Okay. When I was a young boy, in my early teens, I'd say I was about 13, 14 years old. I was pretty industrious and I looked for every opportunity to make a dollar. And boy, I mowed lawns, I did. Well, I'm not even going to go down that list because I did so many things between the age of 13 and 18 to make a buck that the list is a mile long. And actually, as industrious as I was probably the richest kid in town. Richest kid that didn't have money from their parents. My growing up financially for the family was tight. So I went out. If I wanted money, boy, I had to go out and make it myself. So I looked for any opportunity. Well, I just happened across a situation that turned out to be a little pot of gold. I had an old red Flyer wagon. You guys know what those are. There was always a kid with one around the neighborhood, you know. And I had this old red Flyer wagon, and there was a swamp by our house. And one day I was down at that swamp goofing around, and I come across this big, monstrous snapping turtle. He was up on the dry land wandering around, and oh, he was a big one. And I thought, he's neat. I want to take him home. Bring him to my place and I'll fence him in for a few days and just kind of check him out. And then I'll let him go. Well, I ran home, got my red wagon, and I hauled that down by the swamp. Yeah, he's still there. He's still up on the dry ground wandering around. And I caught that big bugger. I was fortunate I didn't learn a lesson the hard way by having him get a hold of me. Got him in that red wagon. Well, because I was handling him, he just went into his shell and just kind of like, I ain't moving until I'm left alone. So he behaved himself. I just had him in the red wagon and I'm heading home with this big turtle in that red wagon. All of a sudden a car stops. And this guy gets out of the car and he's walking over to me. And I'm looking at him and I go, I know who he is. He's an Asian fella that owns a local Chinese restaurant. Great fella, great fella. God, he was a nice man. But he comes up to me and he goes, oh my gosh, that's a big turtle. I said, yeah, it is, isn't it? He goes, what you going to do with him? I said, I don't know. I'm just taking him home. I'm going to just kind of hang on to him for a while and watch him, and then I'll probably just end up letting him go. You know, I don't know what else to do with a big turtle. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He says, I'll give you $50 for him. I said, all right, now, mind you, this is like 1970. $50? Are you insane, man? And I told him, I said, oh, you got it. Don't. I said, are you just making fun of me? I said, that turtle ain't worth $50. He says, I'll make probably $250 on the turtle soup that I'll sell that I make off of that turtle. Plus, there's a couple other recipes I'll be able to make with that turtle that'll make me another couple $100. So I'm looking at making $400 or $500 off of that big turtle. And so, yes, $50 for that turtle is a fair price. He says, actually, I'm being cheap. I said, well, yeah, you can be cheap with me. So I told him, sure, I'll let you buy that turtle. He's got this sweet little Mercedes Benz, right? He goes over and he pops the trunk on that thing. He says, but for $50, you put them in my trunk. He says, from there, I'll take care of it. But he says, you load them in my trunk and I'll give you $50. All this time, I'm wrestling with that big turtle, and I get him up and dropped in that trunk. I turned around and looked at the guy, and I'm thinking, you know, he's probably pulling my leg. Now that the turtle's in his trunk, he's going to jump in his car and take off. He ain't going to give me no $50. I turned and looked at him. That guy's holding a crisp $50 bill. He hands it to me, and he says, boy, I appreciate that. He says, I'll tell you what. He said, I don't need a lot of turtles. But he said, I'll go through one turtle a week if I have them. He said, I have another fella that he was supposed to provide me with a turtle a week during the spring, summer, fall season. But he says, I see him maybe once a month with a turtle. And he said, I guess they're just that hard to find. I said, they are not. I see these big snapping turtles all the time. Well, I was a kid. I ran around. I hung out by swamps and the lakes, and I seen them snappers all the time. I'm telling you, it's all. And the lake that we lived on was full of snapping turtles. Just, they were everywhere. So I told that guy, I said, I can bring you a turtle every week if you want. Well, before he closed the trunk of the car, he opened the passenger door and reached in the glove box and came out with the tape measure. And he measured across the back of that snapping turtle. And I can't remember how many inches it was, but he says, okay. He says, here's the scoop. Any turtle this size, let's say it was 15 inches. He said, any turtle 15 inches to 17 inches, I'll give you $50. He said, any turtle less than 15 inches, I'll give you $35. He said, anything over 17 inches, he said, I'll give you $75. And he said, I don't want any turtles that are under 12 inches. Okay. Those prices were so outrageous, I didn't care about the price anymore. I just cared about make sure that turtle's at least 12 inches, and if possible, over 17. That's all I cared about. So that summer and in close to fall, I was on the hunt for turtles. I had to get one turtle a week. Well, like I said, they were so common that there was a point where I had 4 turtles in this fenced-in area in my backyard at home. Big ones, too. They were all in the 15 to 18-inch range. Plus a 5th turtle that I had just taken to him. And he asked me when I brought that turtle to him, he measured it and he goes, hey, that's a good one. He said, that's a $50 turtle. I said, I got 4 more, and 3 of them I think are $50 turtles, and 1 I think is a $75 turtle. And he goes, but I told you I can only use 1 turtle a week. I said, no, I know. But that means for the next month I don't have to do anything except my other jobs. I don't have to go looking for turtles because I've got a good stock of them. And I said, and he goes, well, I don't want them things starving to death over the next month. I said, oh no, they're not starving a month to death. I said, I've got a worm garden going because I sell night crawlers to the local fishermen. I said, and I'm feeding those to them turtles and they're just loving it. And I said, plus I fish all the time. So I give them all the fish heads and they love it. I said, they're healthy as can be. They got a big pool of water that they can go in. They got fish heads and worms. They're happy as can be. I said, they'll be just as fat and healthy as you can get them. He says, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a $10 bonus if what you do is the next turtle you're going to bring me, you don't feed them for 1 week. He says, because then when I'm cleaning them out, they're super clean. He says, so if you can separate them and take one and let him go for a week without feeding them, and then bring him to me, and then the next one, separate him for 1 week and then bring him to me. He says, I'll give you a $10 bonus on each of those turtles. I said, what are you gonna, so I'm going to get $60 or $85? You betcha, buddy. You're going to get clean turtles. So I started doing that process. So you think about it, I had about, I'd say 15, 20 weeks of delivering this guy turtles. I made a lot of money. It was snapper gold. But you know, the best part is none of my buddies ever were aware of what I was up to. They just knew that goofy Sty, he'll go down there and by the swamp and he'll come hauling a big old snapper turtle home. He puts it in that cage he's got in the backyard and he messes with them. And then he must be letting them go once in a while because he'll bring a new one home and one's gone. But Sty's goofy that way. No, Sty was a prospector. And he had a prospect that paid $50 per snapper. It was snapper gold. It was snapper gold. And every one of those snappers, after the very first one, he hauled it in his Mercedes. But every one of those after that, I delivered it. Right in the back of my little red wagon, I'd haul them buggers down to his Chinese restaurant, go to the back door, knock on the door, and the old fella come out the door and he'd smile and he'd say, and he had a big tub. And he'd say, fill the tub with water and get the turtle in it and I'll go get your cash. You betcha. Yeah. And that's how Sty actually was able to afford to buy a car at 15 years old, was his little projects like that really put some cash to the side for me. But there you go. Snapper gold. Another Sty story for you. Isn't Sty a goofy bugger? He'd just do anything, won't he? Hey, I want to thank everybody for strolling into the Sty Shack. You know, every time my door's open, you're welcome. And come on in. If you're not subscribed, you can punch me in the ugly mug. I'll have some videos over here you can go check out if you'd like. Don't forget to ring the bell and you'll be notified every time a video goes up on Monday and Thursday and when my live feeds are coming up. So until the next one, you all have a very nice day. Bye-bye.